that, yeah, you did some bad stuff, but I'm your dad, and you're here by my side.
You're watching the left rediscover fatherhood. All of a sudden, Whoopi thinks fathers matter now. And taking your tax-cheat son to a state dinner in Camp David after fixing the investigation is just what a good dad does.
What message is the president trying to send to the American people when he invites his son to the state dinner and Camp David, as we saw this past weekend, amid everything he's going through?
Every president of the United States has invited their family to state dinner. This president also has a family. He is no different.
In case you didn't notice, that wasn't Binder. She doesn't shatter, but she still got mauled by reporters. But do you see what's happening here? We went from the Bidens never took foreign cash to Joe never talked to his son about his foreign deals to, yeah, it's a scandal, but Joe loves his little boy.
The Hunter Biden story, the scandal, the this, the that, it's also the story of a father's love. And Joe Biden has never and will never give up on his son Hunter, and will never treat him lesser than. And so he is a father first. Take it or leave it.
What makes a good dad? Teaching your son manners, showing him how to hit a fastball, or wiping away tax and gun charges after he sucks foreign nations dry for you. Extortion, tax fraud, sex trafficking, while high on crack, that's a story about fatherly love? The View wanted to throw Don Jr. in prison for taking one meeting. What do they want to do with Hunter for taking meetings, bribes, and diamonds? They want to give him a hug. Now that the media cares so much about fatherhood, will they ever talk about Hunter abandoning his love child? Hunter went to court to lower his child support payments and prevent his daughter from using the last name Biden. Now, I know a lot of good fathers, and a good father knows when to say no to their son. Dad, I know I have a drug problem, and I just started sleeping with my brother's widow, but can I please fly on Air Force Two to China with you and shake down the commies with the fam? Now, most dads tell their son no. Not Joe. He just says, don't forget to bring your passport. Does the View get that?
As a parent inviting your son, what I take issue with is he should have sat this out, if we're being honest, because the pride you take in your family, this has been a big struggle and all, and we have addiction in our family. It is not lost on someone that's addicted that's a lot for a family, and he's good, with God's will, is getting out of it. But he just got charged with a felony charge, misdemeanors. I once lied and hit a mailbox, and I could barely look my dad in the eye for a month. Sit it out. Sit at home and just for a minute, just take a seat.
But Hunter hasn't taken a seat his whole life. He's used to daddy saying yes. Back in 1988, an 18-year-old Hunter got hit with his first coke offense. Hunter partied a little too hard in Stone Harbor, New Jersey, and got handcuffed. But instead of teaching him a lesson, Senator Joe Biden had his record expunged. Hunter got off with 6 months probation and then later got kicked out of the Navy for cocaine. What kind of dad has their coke addict son play cash register with your political career? And I'm sick of the addiction excuse. What kind of crack addict sets up 17 shell companies? Does crack make you smarter? All right, get this. Ukraine paid Hunter $800,000. Hunter sent the $800,000 to his Chinese shell companies and then had the shell company loan him back the $800,000 so he wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. Hunter loaned himself his own income to cheat the IRS. That's not tax evasion, that's tax fraud. Does that sound like someone who was in a drug haze to you? Or does that sound like someone who put a little thought into what they were doing? Now, the fraud's even more brazen. Check this out. Hunter took tax deductions for prostitutes. He wrote off $18,000 for an assistant who was actually an escort. Hunter filed $10,000 for golf as a business expense, but the money was for a sex club. The sex club he happened to get kicked out of on the first night. Now, I'm old enough to remember when putting things in the wrong column is a felony. Remember what Alvin Bragg said about Trump? Wrong column. Now, Hunter's a tax cheat. He'll pretty much do anything for cash. Just ask the Chinese. In a newly uncovered email, Hunter told his Chinese business partner, Mr. Dong, I'm not kidding, quote, the Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants. Want classified documents, want policy favors, want us to ignore your spy balloon for 3,000 miles? The Bidens are the best. Wait a second, the Bidens? Is Hunter talking about he and his wife? Some would call that a conspiracy between a father and a son. And this conspiracy isn't a theory. With all this evidence, it's a fact. Let's turn it over to Congressman Byron Donalds. He's on the House Oversight Committee. So this new message, how do you interpret that one about the Chinese and the Bidens, plural, delivering?
Jesse, I take it the way I've taken all this information as we've uncovered it in the Oversight Committee in Ways and Means and Judiciary. The Biden family are locked in a pay-for-play scandal. This is public corruption. Joe Biden knows about it. He's been lying to the American people for years. And the FBI and the Department of Justice at the political brass, they've been covering up for the Bidens. That's exactly what's going on here. And to make matters even worse, most media is either ignoring it or calling it a father's story of love for his son. This is a joke and it's a lie. It's a travesty for our country. But accountability must occur because Joe Biden is compromised. The family was taking money from the Chinese, the Ukrainians, the Romanians. And by the way, as far as we could tell, none of them were paying their fair share when it came to taxes. So he wants Americans to pay higher taxes, but at the same time, they're concealing the ill-gotten gains they got from overseas from the IRS and the American people.
So where does House Oversight stand right now with its investigation? You have a bunch of whistleblowers saying that this investigation by Justice was totally cooked. And are we going to get any of these bank records, any of these credit card records, this burner phone record? What do we got?
Well, even as this information has been coming out, oversight has been hard on the case, led by James Comer. We've been tracking this information down, trying to get it down. We've also been bringing people in and actually interviewing them under oath to get a full picture of what's actually occurred with Joe Biden and his son and his brother Jim. And let's not leave out Jim. I know he's not a crackhead, but Jim Biden's involved in this as well. We've been getting down to exactly what's going on, and we're going to present our case to the American people. We believe it's very compelling now, but we know how the press is and we know how the Democrats are. We want to make sure you have all the information so the American people can finally make their full decision on Joe Biden, which means, in my view, personally, he shouldn't be nowhere near the White House.
And you have an investigation going. Does the fatherhood excuse play in a type of investigation? Because everything you look at in history, the left's incentivized a lack of fathers. You know, if you look at the welfare state, if you look at the tax code that Hunter cheated, that's what they've all been about. Can all of a sudden they turn around and say this is about the love between a father and a son?
No, it's just gaslighting from the left. It's pretty typical. They're lying and they're covering up for their guy because they know if the American people knew the totality, if they actually reported the totality, if the ladies on The View actually talked about the real scandal, which is not his love for his son, the fact that his son was traveling the globe on his behalf, shaking down our adversaries and getting money in a matter of public corruption. That's what's been going on. If the American people knew this, they would be flatly disgusted, and frankly, they would be asking for him to resign as president of the United States. So of course the left is going to cover up for him because this entire period in our politics has all been predicated on trying to damage Donald Trump, damage Republicans so the left could get through their Green New Deal agenda and all their other agenda items. And at the end of the day for the left, it's about the agenda. They will lie, they will cover up, they will smear as long as they get to accomplish their political ends.
All right. Congressman, thanks so much. We appreciate the work you're doing on the Oversight Committee.